Hi everyone, it's Evan from the Trade Risk. Happy Sunday, March 1st, and I'm here with some trade ideas for the week. I just published my weekly analysis on the indices and some of the major sectors, leading sectors, lagging sectors, so check that out, traderisk.com, latest blog post. In this video, I want to keep it to actionable trade ideas, and we got some on the long side. Most are on the long side, and we also have a couple of names on the short side for this week. So without further, let's jump in. First name is RSG. So you can see it's been consolidating a little loose, but essentially this $41 has kept the lid on price. Let's look at a weekly chart. You can see, you know, if you smooth this out a little bit, you can see how it's put in a very nice consolidation, and it's had a very nice run all of 2014. It's basing out now for a few months, so it looks like we could see a pop here. You know, in the next week or two, if it can really get above this $41. So keep this one on watch. Looks like it's getting close to, you know, either breaking or failing and moving away from that level. Next is SNN. This one is a little loose. It's pretty volatile given the price. Look at a weekly chart. Now, back in mid-2014, we were up around these levels, right around this $36, $37 levels, and we had a pretty nice pullback for the second and third quarter of 2014. But recently, price has begun to stabilize. It's worked back up into this $37 level. So back to a daily chart, you can see we had this nice pop here. This is probably earnings, I don't know actually, on the 23rd. Had a nice ramp higher, and then it's been cooling off, digesting, and it's trying to make a run for it. It had a real nice run in it on Friday. You can see this tail here, but it was faded, and it was enough for me. I was stalking it for a long entry, and I held off, just given the pessimism that's sort of set in my head here with this type of tail. So I want to see what it can do heading into this week. It was still up almost 1.5% on Friday, so it had a nice outperformance on Friday's session. But look to see if this can move forward and progress above this 36.70 level. I think you could have something there that could be a nice setup. Now VAR. I've talked about this one before. I was long this one, believe it was right here on the 18th of February. I got long it right here, and I got quickly stopped out on the next day on this bar. Took a small loss, and you know, it had a run back up, another one of those bars. So keep this on watch. You know, it's staying real tight, right? This nice, had to put in a nice base here for a couple of months, broke out, and now it's going sideways again. So, you know, we'd be looking for another one of these type of breakout bars that we saw on the 29th. So something that will cruise us through this $94 level. I think you could have a pretty nice risk to reward setting up on VAR. Next, MJN. So this one had a nice base that it put in over the end of 14 and into the new year, and it recently just broke above what I would consider 103.50 resistance, the level that I would look to buy, and now it's consolidating pretty nicely right above all of this previous supply. So I like when things, you know, kind of set up and base sideways above a major breakout level. So, you know, look for further continuation here above essentially Friday's highs, 105.30. I think you could see, especially with this nice base that got put in here, and then you get this little kind of micro base getting put in. So I think you could see, you know, a nice new leg higher on MJN if you can get that breakout happening. Now PPG, this is another one that we've been watching for some time now. Real tight in this range here from 232 to 237. I've been waiting for this to make a move. It still is just tightening up. So, and I like that. I like when things have more time to tighten up in very clear defined ranges. So I like the look here. I need to see it prove itself. I need to see that get above 237.25, let's call it, and I think that could set this one in motion. But it's still just kind of quietly churning in that little range. So let's see what happens. Now ORCL is another one, ORCL, I've been talking about for a little while. 44.25. That's essentially the breakout level I'd be watching for. Again, we talk about stocks that are tightening up in a tight range. This is one of them. It's tightening up right below a pretty significant level here at 44.25. So I think that's the actionable level. I'm going to be looking for price to get above there, get a nice definitive close, and I think you might have something there, but it certainly is taking its time. So if it doesn't get it soon, it does have, increases those risks of perhaps just heading lower. Another name, DPS. DPS above 79.50. I like this one here. Another defensive sector name. Look at the weekly chart here. It's just had a brilliant run from mid 2013, and it's very methodical. It's riding up on this fast moving average here. This happens to be the 8 EMA, but it's hugging above here on the weekly chart. It's put in a nice base over the past 8 weeks or so, and it looks like it could be primed to move forward. So 79.50 might need a little more time, but I think that one is pretty actionable. And finally, DTV, DirecTV. This one I'm actually involved in. I got involved in this on Thursday. Weekly chart, I think, tells a nice picture. It's had a really nice run, all the way going back to 2012 really is where it started. But then take a look at this. Ever since essentially mid 2014, it's just been chugging sideways here. Very, very orderly, in between, $83.50 and $88, let's call it. And just this week, it's trying to poke its head up and trying to, essentially make a run at these all-time highs here, right around $89.50. So back to a daily chart. I got long and above $88 on Thursday. So this is a trade I'm currently involved in. It's still pretty actionable, especially if you're someone that likes to wait for new all-time highs, perhaps. Then you're still waiting for your signal. But to me, above the bulk of supply here, I like this trade. So I'm looking for this to continue next week, and I think your risk is easily defined. Now let's flip gears. Let's go to the short side of things. Let's look at Chipotle, CMG. This one, this one is I think this is a name that a lot of people like to, a lot of shorts in this name, or a lot of former shorts that were probably squeezed out of their position because this has had such a massive run over the past few years. But this one, almost like a little island top here, gapped up above, and then it basically gapped below, got stuck below the 685 level, came down, bounced, and now look at it. It went sideways here in this little chop range, and then Friday's candle was pretty ugly. It's pretty, well, it's sort of an actionable short there that I wish I saw this sooner, because I probably would have taken this signal already, just the way we closed below, basically 2-week lows in this little micro range here below 670. So look for some continuation to the downside here. I think 650 is a pretty big target, and then I think below 650, you could really pick up some steam on some downside, on some potential downside topping pattern, but still plenty ways away from that. I'm not calling that, I'm not suggesting that that's going to happen, but I think, given the little bit of a breakdown we saw and underperformance we've seen here in Chipotle recently, I think this one could be an interesting play on the short side. Now, another name that I'm looking potentially for short is Allstate. Maybe not the clearest pattern, but you can see it is a little sloppy here, and it's got that look like it just wants to sort of roll, given all the, just the way it's sort of kind of rolling on all these tops here, right around, last week, and then again in this week. So again, you probably need to see a little more follow through to the downside, but you can see the moving averages, fast ones, are starting to curl over, and this one could see some type of breakdown. So keep it on watch for a potential short signal there. And hell, if it doesn't, you could easily get a long signal too. I mean, the point is price is compressing, and when price compresses cleanly, I think that leads to either breakouts or breakdowns. And I don't try and predict which side. I'm just looking at whatever gives me a clean entry. So I think either way, you could really look at Allstate there, depending on which way the market leans. Finally, let's look at USO. Again, we all know USO. It's very widely watched now nowadays with the recent downtrend here. And the bulls are trying to stabilize this at the $17.50, $18 level. They're trying to sort of they're trying to be convincing, but again, I still think if it loses these group of lows that we've put in recently, I still think this is a pretty nice actionable short signal down to the lows, perhaps making new all-time lows or not all-time lows, but new relative lows, I'm sorry, and you know, that could be a pretty nice setup there. So again, keep USO on watch. It's very watched, and that's what makes these types of trades tricky, because you get a lot of eyes on it, a lot of foolery with the price action, and you know, so who knows. But USO could be an interesting short setup. So that's it. That's what I have for today. Most on the long side. Again, if you like, if you want to hear more about my analysis on the indices, check out my latest blog post, traderisk.com. Like the videos, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.